Dani is out today. She's speaking at a conference, so I am very, very excited to have Mick Hawley with us. Mick has got a deep background in enterprise sales. He's an executive coach and coaches Fortune 500 companies, and I'm both honored and excited to have him with us. Welcome, Mick.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. Excited to be on the show and talk to your audience. Let's go.
Absolutely. So, Mick, just give me a little bit of background about your history because we both come from the same arena. We're both come from enterprise sales, me being in the technology industry and selling. So, I'm excited to hear a little bit about your background and what your expertise is.
Okay, well, so your audience may be able to pick up my accent. I'm originally from the middle of the UK, in the middle of England, in a place called Derbyshire. Not many people know where that is, but I did live about 20 miles away from Sherwood Forest. So everybody knows Robin Hood. It is a real place in the next county of Nottinghamshire. And I started my career in sales. I was in pharmaceutical sales. And then I joined the mighty Big Blue IBM, who gave me so much wonderful sales training, exposed me to business, my account that I was working. I was responsible early on in my career for Ford's operations in Europe. And then latterly with Tesco, is one of the largest food retailers in the UK. I spent a lot of time in sales, got trained with spin selling, if many of you know that, very powerful selling method, particularly in complex enterprise sales. And then I got into consulting, worked for Accenture, helping them with their consulting. And then I got an opportunity to come to the US. That was 26 years ago, to start a consulting business over here, which I did. We grew that business to about $100 million and sold it. So I've worked with Fortune 500 companies in the US for over 20 years. And I've pivoted a little bit to working with small to medium-sized businesses. And I've taken the techniques that I've learned in that large enterprises, helping them drive change, and package them in a way small business can take advantage of that. And it's so exciting because small business owners, you show them a good idea and they're well after it. So it's very much a passion and an enjoyment to work with those kinds of people.
Yes, we definitely both align there. Bringing that experience down to the small business. In fact, I read a blog article today. I think it was Grow, Shrink, or Go Extinct. It was an article by a guy I know named Mick Hawley, and it was just out today. And interestingly enough, we did revenue last week, and we're kind of continue on because that was a great article. Tell me about the article. Tell me about the message in that article, and let's talk about that.
Yeah, I think so. Here's the thing: there are 34 million small to medium-sized businesses in the US, and the sad fact is that 90% of them will fail inside 10 years, 50% inside of 4 years. And one of the challenges that they have is, growing the business, right? So I think that you can either grow, you shrink, or you go extinct. If you're growing, you can provide opportunity for yourself. You can grow your own wealth. You can provide careers for your employees. If you're shrinking and trying to save costs, that's not a happy place, and ultimately you'll spiral down into extinction. So I'm help small businesses, grow their business. And a lot of owners come to me and say, well, yeah, well, when my business gets bigger, I get busier. I don't have any time. It's not any fun. So how do we grow in a way that creates personal freedom? We have to put systems in place to be able to work on our business and not in our business. And so I believe very, very strongly in growth. As the economy goes up and down, the businesses that succeed are ones who are sales centric. So where do you go to learn your sales tradecraft? Where do you go to learn lead generation and marketing? If you're a small business, well, that's what I can provide, and that's what I do for companies.
Very good, very good. So if I'm a new business and I'm just coming out and building a product, where do you start with me? I mean, so I get a lot of businesses that ask, where do I get started? Today is day one. I've got a product, call it a widget, and like I had someone. I don't have an MBA. He says I don't know where to get started. So, from your perspective, Mick, where is that?
Well, I think first of all, you've got to have clarity about who you're trying to sell to, right? You may have the best widget in the world, but not everybody wants to buy that widget at this particular moment in time. So you've got to define who your ideal client is. And I have an expression that most people have heard, the expression "cash is king." The expression I like to use is "revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, and cash is king."
Absolutely.
And those three characters, vanity, sanity, and the king, the way that they interplay in your organization is a metaphor for the income statement, balance sheet, and statement of cash flows, which a new business owner can't quite grasp those numbers because you've got a set of financial statements. Only a CPA can understand it. It wasn't designed for the business owner. But to come back to your question, Paul, where do you begin? Well, so the eager new business owner with the wonderful widget will go out and try and sell it to get revenue, to bring revenue into the business. Well, if you discount to win, or if you go to the wrong client who doesn't really value that widget, you'll get that revenue, but it'll be at a low profit margin. So sanity, who looks after profit, is going, bit of a challenge. And it may be that customer takes a long time to pay you. So what happens is you're feeling good, right? Revenue is vanity. I've sold a lot of my widgets. I don't sell them for a very high price. So there's not a lot of profit there, but I'm having to buy more material to build more widgets, right? So I've got to pay my suppliers in cash. They want cash. I can't pay them with profit. Profit is an accounting concept. The only thing that's real is cash. And yet I haven't received payment for all those widgets that I've put in or installed. And so now I have this gap where I'm light on cash. Now, if you've been sensible and gone to your bank and explained your business plan, the bank will probably lend you money to give you the cash to be able to operate that business. But if you didn't plan for that, then you're going to have a cash crunch. And in those statistics, Paul, the single biggest killer of businesses is they've run out of cash.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a malady I call growing broke. Right, we're growing, we feel great, but we go broke because we haven't taken care of cash.
So I thought we were going to keep this in small business. Now we're in enterprise again. We're talking about EBITDA. So, difference between EBITDA and small cash flow. No, I'm just making a joke from it because
every business owner knows, because I work with a small business owner, and I spoke to him. His name was Stephen. He ran the family business. He'd taken over the family business. He didn't want to be in the family business. Happened to be a commercial flooring business. And I said to him, Stephen, what do you really want out of this? He said, Mick, get me out of here. He said, my brother works here, my uncle works here, my mother works here. I've got to provide for everybody. And every day I come into the business and I have to decide who I'm going to mess with today. I won't use the word he used because I'm not sure about the language on your podcast. He said, I've got to decide I'm not going to pay my suppliers or I'm not going to pay my employees because there's no cash. And the only benefit I have of being the owner of this business is the travel points on my Amex card. And so he was a small business, been in business for a long time. It really, really does affect the small business owner. So knowing your numbers and having clarity about the kind of customer that you want to attract, big difference to your success and your growth.
Absolutely. Actually, it brings me back a memory because my very first client in technology sales was Empire Carpets in Chicago, which was a flooring, a flooring company. They're major. They're in like 5 states now,
Right,
but
right.
just brought me back there. Um, it's good to pay attention to cash, and cash flow is king, and that kind of stretches back into marketing and sales, right? So, marketing being the mother of all cash generating activities, because one of the things I think about when first starting a business is the problem I solve and who I solve it for. Because the problem I solve is how I'm going to market to, and where the people I'm going to market to are the people that I solve it for. And I think
Right.
those are two of the biggest questions to ask as you're opening a business, is making sure that you're crystal clear on the problem you solve and who you solve it for, because that is the basis of your marketing messaging, your marketing, what channels you decide to market to, and where you're going to promote. One of the biggest things I've taken is have an idea and then promote. Right, everything else is second, and that's as a starting business, that's the first two things I would do, and then back that into being able to pricing, product, promotion, is very key. What do you think?
I think you're absolutely on the money. The litmus test for clarity, as your audience are listening here, is your ability to say no to a prospect, to a
Mm-hmm.
piece of business, because it doesn't fit what you do really well. It doesn't fit where you can make the most money. It doesn't fit where you can add the most value to that client. So if you can say no because I'm not really going to do that very well, therefore my customer's not going to be that excited. I'm not going to get referrals. I might not make a lot of money with this particular. If you have clarity about that, when you can say no, it's a relief, and it's a very powerful thing. But if you don't have clarity, all business looks like good business, and I'm back to my phrase: revenue is vanity. Not all business, not all revenue is good revenue. Some of it is you should not accept that kind of work.
And how good does it feel to fire that customer? I have fired a lot of customers over the years. Um, I just had this conversation with a client because she runs a service, and she had some people calling. It's in a contract service. And she told her employees, find every way you can not to get a contract with this person, because the 80/20 rule comes in. 80% of your problems come from 20% of your customers, and it's the 20% that are the lowest paying customers that you have. And that goes right to exactly what you're saying.
Yeah. And one little exercise I like to do with my clients is, to look at their portfolio of opportunities and see where they're making the most money. Because they'll have an average. If they know their numbers a little bit, they'll know that on average they're making a certain margin, right? Let's say
Mm-hmm.
that they're making an average of 20% gross margin. My rule of thumb is you really want to be making 30% or more gross margin. That's the rule of thumb. Anything less than that, and you really got to be very, very efficient about operating your business in order for you, when you've taken all of your costs of overhead, of administration, and you get to that little operating margin at the bottom, it's very, very low. And for the risk that you're
Mm-hmm.
taking, you really want those gross margins. But I'll look at their portfolio and I'll say, okay, let's move your margins from 20% to 28%. And the salespeople in the organization, Mick, you don't understand. We'll never win work. We'll never win work at 28%. We'll just get killed. Yeah, that's ridiculous. I said, well, okay, let's list out all of the clients you've got. And look, you've got these clients that you're selling at 50%, some at 60%, some at 40%, some at 35%, and you got this whole tranche at 12% and 13%. So you can attract clients at the 50, 60% gross margin. So what is it that you're doing? What type of customer is that? And why don't we go and knock on the doors of more people like that rather than these people at 12%? Now, Paul, you said, fire some customers. In that whole process, we'll look at the bottom of the portfolio and say, we're really not making much money here. Maybe we make a strategic investment, but it maybe we've got into a habit. Now you can go to that customer and say, I would like to work with you, but we've got to get to at least 25% from, 20% is not going to work for us. We've got to get it to, and they will work with you if you've delivered good value in the past. So step one would be to have a positive conversation with that customer and explain the economics and what, if you value me, if you value my business, this is how we can do it. And some of them will work with you, and others say, I'm always going to buy the cheapest, and so sayonara, and that's fine too. So it's not a fight. It's just, hey, we're business people, you understand. And some of your customers will go, hey, no, I love what you do. I'm surprised you've done it for this cheap for so long. I'm happy to pay more.
Exactly. Yep. Those aren't in that lower 20%, by the way. So, but taking this over to a product, and I like to use the vending machine business because I have a vending client who has lots and lots of vending machines. And we were doing the same thing, taking a look at his margins, the employees that were going out to fill the machines, all that good kind of stuff. And what was interesting as we were going through is how big of an impact a little tick can make. So this vending machine, we took and just increased 25 cents per product per vending machine. And it netted out $10,000 a month in additional revenues. And it cleared out, to your point, it cleared out that low margin where he's just suffering a little bit and added just enough back in to where he could continue to grow the business. Because that $10,000 is a new machine every month in a new location. So now he's growing. He's growing again. He's growing again.
Well, think about that. So we can have a whole discussion now about value versus price.
Correct.
Because when you get, I was just at the dropping my daughter off to the car dealership to have the state inspection and what have you done, and there's a vending machine there, and I don't even know what the price was. You type in the numbers and it drops the can of Monster Energy, because I needed the energy to be on your show, Paul, right? Because you pay for convenience. You're paying for the value of it being there. It's cold, it's a hot day, right? I wanted a drink, I'll pay for that. And so it's not about the price. I posted a cartoon on my LinkedIn one time. There's two lemonade stands. One of them says lemonade, 5 cents a cup, and there's a girl with the stand which says lemonade, 20 cents a cup, made with pure spring water, right? And so you're thinking, oh, that water's cleaner, that lemonade's better, and people will pay for that because they want to take, they want that taste, they want that value. And so what you did with your vending machine owner is that people pay for convenience. They don't mind paying an extra 25 cents. It's not like the old days we put 25-cent coins in. Now you just wand your card.
You swipe your credit card now, yeah.
And you don't feel the extra 25 cents because I want that product. I want it now, and this is the only place to get it. I'll pay it. So absolutely knowing your audience, knowing why they buy your product, being able to provide value and convenience, people will pay for it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what have we learned then? We've learned that incremental increases in pricing, as long as there's the perceived value of your product, will have relatively no impact on your subscribership, for lack of a better term, and can increase your free cash flow, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
What else?
Well, I do it. I do a little exercise. We won't be able to do it on the show, but maybe I can give you a link to a little training video that I have. We called the three doors, right? You've got three ways to improve the profitability of your business. You can either sell 10% more product. You could reduce the price. You could increase the price of your products 10%, or you could reduce your cost of goods. Your materials. You work really hard to make your business efficient. You buy cheaper materials to make whatever product that you got. So you've got three options: sell more, price higher, or reduce costs by the same amount. And what I ask is, which door would you walk through to give you the biggest improvement in the performance of your business? You know what it is?
It's to raise the price.
Yeah, you're a smart man, Paul. Most people think that it's sell more, but it really is the price. Because when you sell more, right, your costs go up as well.
You incrementally increase both costs and
What I see with and this is particularly prevalent in the large enterprise customers, because what's the single biggest thing that can move the dial when you've got 10,000 people in your organization and you're about to miss your quarterly number? The only thing that can move that quarterly number is headcount. So they'll take people off the payroll and they'll go for cost reduction in order. But the people they take out are usually the people who are selling stuff. So now you've lost your growth capability and you're on a debt spiral there. And so a lot of companies, they go for cost because cost is easy, but the most efficient lever is price and revenue. But they're less adept at moving the dial on that. So growth, lead generation, all businesses need it, and particularly smaller businesses. If you can get that revenue in at the right level, then you've got a machine.
Yeah.
You've got a vending machine business.
So you just pressed my button. You just pressed my button, because I've been saying this for 30 years. They go after the sales guys. Talk about cutting off your nose to spite your face. Not only is that such a it is truly because it's the accounting function or the finance function in the organization that's making that decision, and they don't understand the long-term effects of cutting your revenue path, and it is probably one of the worst moves. But that is a function of constriction. And even though we see that so much in enterprise, that is probably, I would say, a good 80% of small business owners struggle with that on a daily basis. They get caught up in the cost of the business, and they're focused on the cost and not focused on how they can generate more revenue, because these cost functions get fixed with an increase in revenue. Okay. Mm-hmm. And that's like, ultimately, that's for running your household. That's for running your business. It isn't the $500, per quarter ballet cost that's the problem. It's that I need to increase my household revenue by $500. It isn't the, oh my God, the materials went up by 5%. That's not the problem. The problem is I need to go out and sell 20% more to account for the 5% increase, or increase my pricing to accommodate and increase that revenue. Anytime that I see a cost increase, I want to immediately, my thing is I got to go find more customers, raise my prices. I got to do something immediately. And ultimately, with good planning, I actually want to anticipate the increase in a cost so that I can be there before it happens, right?
So, great. And Paul, you and I are part of the 10X community. And we've proven with thousands of times that we can increase revenues by 30% inside of 90 days with the techniques that we have at our disposal, that we practice and we coach in. So we know that growth is possible. And businesses, they only need to do three things. Number one, they need to make money. So we need to optimize the money making machine, that profitability, those margins, that portfolio. Number two is they have to generate predictable cash flow. And thirdly, they need to build systems that create long-term wealth. And what happens is businesses are so busy trying to sell to make money, and they're chasing the cash in the bills because their cash flow is a little inconsistent, that business owners don't get enough time to focus on putting in those systems that will free them up from working inside the tyranny of the urgent, so that they can work on the marketing, the lead generation, the growth engine, which I call the revenue factory. Most people understand if they're making a widget, here's my factory, here's how I do it, here are the steps. Revenue, you should have a factory-like method for bringing in revenue, which starts with the identification of the right customer, creating the right messaging, having the right offer, bringing those leads into the system, managing them with a CRM, and then closing those deals with the sales techniques that we have in our 10x Grant Cardone University to close that and keep that revenue. And then we continue to grow that client, so we get long-term client value. But that's a factory. That's an end-to-end supply chain, and you've got to be able to manage that. And if you don't have that well scripted, it's a bit ad hoc, and so you become a cork bobbing on a wave. The economy's up, we're up. The economy's down, we suck. As opposed to the great companies, when that economy goes down, they take market share from everybody else because they've got a sales machine. And so their revenues are like this. They don't do this.
Yeah, it's replication theory also. You mentioned that business owners don't have time, and I would argue that they don't afford themselves the time because of the control function in the business. So a lot of times to grow, you have to replicate yourself. And the problem is that no one can do it like I do. Nobody can do it like I do. And that's probably true for all business owners. However, if I can find two people that do 80% of what I do, then they're producing at 160% of my 100%. And that affords the business owner to focus on the direction. And I'll use this term because I'm ex-Navy. You cannot steer the ship from the engine room. You have to be up in the pilot house. And if you're working in the business, then you're not working on the business. And I think that's exactly what you're
I like that analogy, Paul, and I've learned something now.
So yeah. So that's really good stuff. I think we need to have a lot more conversations wrapped around revenue generation, and the how-tos, right? The how to find your customer. And to your point, I just had one of my clients. She came back to us. She's been with us for 2 months. We modified her sales process. We added a couple of steps into it, made it a little more complicated. We changed her website up. We started getting her in front of the right people, and her closing ratio went from 40 to 80%.
Nice.
And she increased her revenue from about 40,000 to 120,000 a month in 2 months. So we've pretty much tripled her revenue in under 2 months.
I hope you're operating on a revenue sharing model, Paul.
Geez, I wish I was. I'm starting to think I might have to go for the 10% of every company I work with, right? So,
hey, if you can add value and you can demonstrate that, there are a lot of people who will take you up on that offer.
Yeah, absolutely. So, This was a wonderful time, Mick. I appreciate you coming on and standing in for Dani. You have amazing insights, a lot of gold nuggets. What do you want to leave? What's your final statement?
So my business is, I call it business by the numbers. I feel as a business owner, you do need to have a good understanding, a good grasp of the numbers. And I've created a method by which you can very easily understand the numbers of your business to be able to make intelligent decisions. I've written a book about it and it's free. I'll offer it to you. If you go to micksfreebook.com, MICKS freebook.com, you can download it and it'll give you an easy way to pull apart your business and understand how you can make more profit, generate more cash. And if that intrigues you, or you can always reach out to me and ask questions. Always happy to chat. You can find me on LinkedIn, or if you'd like to chat with me directly, you can go to speaktomick.com. So 2 ways to get to me, but try the book. I'd love your feedback on that at micksfreebook.com. And Paul, thank you for inviting me on your show.
My pleasure. It's been great. So thank you, everybody. Dani will be back next week. And of course, you can go to www.clevelandrain.com and we can work on your revenue, because that was the discussion today. So take care, and we're out till next Thursday. Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.